Welcome to Title Talk with your host, Drew Wishover, entrepreneur, a published author, and owner of Inspired Title Group, along with his co-host and CEO, Amy Maley. Each week, they offer you some laughs, industry terminology, tips and strategies, along with the occasional real estate professional to help educate you as it pertains to buying, selling, or just plain old homeownership. Thanks for spending time with them. Now, let's jump into today's episode of Title Talk. With a very special guest, but before we get there, let me tell you a little bit about us. My name is Drew.
My name is Amy.
We are Inspired Title, Inspired Business, Inspired Development. We're all of it. We just wanted to thank you guys for joining us here today on a happy Thursday morning. And we're going to jump right in today. We got a lot of things going on today, so we're going to jump right into our guest. I am so happy to be not only sharing space, but like developing relationship and working together. We are so privileged to be working with such a great attorney in Eileen Curlin-Walsh. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, and I too love the relationship we've had now for many, many years with Inspired Title. Having, as an estate planning attorney and a real estate attorney, a relationship and actually be living together in the same building with a title company just cuts the work in half.
It really does.
It truly does for us.
It really does. It's just so cool to, when we have questions, we have a place to go. When you guys have questions, a place to go. I mean, the whole conversation about what we've been doing is, having attorneys on our show to determining why, how they work together and the purposes behind all that, and kind of just giving the audience some ideas as to what's going on in the world of real estate and the partnering of companies together, kind of making that one-stop shop feel. And that's kind of what we're trying to develop, and having you guys with us in the building, and our contacts with realtors and lenders and all the different industry professionals, just it gives us this ability to really service our clients better.
Absolutely. And I, from working with you, Drew, and your title company, have come to understand what title insurance is all about.
Sure.
And why the title company facilitating the closing is so important, because clients ask us all the time, what's the title insurance about? Why are we going to a title company? So what I have come to understand is that if we did not have that route, there would just be a huge gap between our comfort of, here's the seller, here's the buyer, yes, we have all these players, but we've got to know that the buyer is getting exactly what they believe they're getting, way beyond a real estate contract, which is a baby compared to the long history of the property and the easements and what's being recorded against it. The history is so important, and to make sure there's nothing in that history that's going to be discovered after the buyer has purchased the property. It's so big and something that the buyer and seller don't think about. They're often thinking about, I'm going to sell this property, the buyer's going to buy this property. But the magnitude of that transaction, I think all the details and all the security lie in the title insurance. And I did not know that before. Before I saw it as, I wouldn't say a necessary evil, but a step to getting the property closed. Now I realize that if we didn't have both the title, everything that the title company does to facilitate the closing, plus the comfort of the title insurance, we simply wouldn't have the real estate industry that we have today, because we can buy and sell properties so easily. Because we don't have to worry that what if.
Absolutely. No, that is so very well said. I think that, you just heard it from the professional who really didn't understand what is title insurance and why, and all of the facets of what goes into it. And the expectation of the general public is to not know it. That's why they come to us. And really, working through that process, I think is something that we're excited about doing, and we're proud of doing with you. So we're going to jump into some questions if you're ready for this. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about you, the type of attorney you are and your practice and all of that fun?
I'd love to, Drew. Eileen Curlin-Walsh, and you might be able to tell from my voice that I come from Ireland. I grew up there way in the country, one of 12 children, and I was lucky enough In 1989, I also came from Northern Ireland, which in the 70s and the 80s was in civil war. It was a difficult situation, and I got chosen to be on a program that was to take us youth from Ireland, come to America, see what the economy could be like, see what a peaceful, booming society could be like. And it was just too successful with me, because when I saw how wonderful Chicago was, and I got to see where I could blossom. I always knew I was a smart girl, but I did not see opportunity for myself, not just because there wasn't as much economic opportunity, but because being a Catholic, coming from the country, being poor, I did not have the self-esteem or the self-worth. And when I got to Chicago, and to be Irish and Catholic was celebrated, and I could see that there was no ceiling, there was no limit, I knew Chicago was for me. So it took me a couple of years to get my visa, to get back again. Came back in the early 90s, picked up my education where I'd left off, my English degree, and then I went to law school. Straight out of law school, I became a public defender. I still had, from my growing up in Northern Ireland, a burning desire to help those in need, to help the underdog. And I spent several years in the public defender's office, both Will and Cook County, and it was a brilliant experience, and I learned so much, and I'm so grateful for what I learned there. But there was something about the adversarial system that did not sit right with me. And I left the public defender's office, went into the private sector, discovered estate planning, and there I found my home. I loved it. I loved the people. I loved their stories. I loved seniors. I understood that I had the skill, the ability to deal with people who were sick, people who were maybe doing deathbed wills. And somebody said to me one time that lawyers are divided into warriors and healers, and I thought,
is that
why
cool?
I didn't belong in the litigation world, because I'm not a warrior. To be a warrior, someone else has to lose for you to win. And you're personally responsible for them losing for you to win. Whereas in estate planning, that's the healing law. We can use the law, it's still sophisticated, you still have to know what you're doing, you're dealing with really important pieces of people's lives. But you can take all the problems they have, you can take the reasons that they put off estate planning, and you can apply a healing solution to it. I always tell my audiences, there's not a single thing keeping you from doing your estate plan that we don't have a solution for. And the reason people put it off, some people put it off endlessly, is because they're worried they have to talk about their assets. That's very intimate. They have to talk about the family member that's not doing so well, maybe an addiction, maybe a spendthrift, blended marriages, all the things that have potential for a lot of problem and disharmony, and we can take that and we can offer solutions. And what we weave into that estate plan is family harmony. And what I have people walking out of my office every day saying is, what a relief. You have given me peace of mind. You've taken a weight off my shoulders. And there's just nothing else, Drew, that I would rather do.
Talk about passion. Like, just hearing you talk about that, it's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Really cool.
Thank
really,
you.
really neat.
Go ahead, Aim.
All right, so how long have you been doing your estate planning, the real estate,
Okay, so straight out of the public defender's office,
Yes.
I worked with a small law firm that just did real estate and just did estate planning. So I did that intensively for years, and when I was single, I was just always working. There was nothing else. Why would I do anything
For
else?
sure.
I worked 60, 80 hours a week. And then I met my big love when I was kind of mid-30s. So at that point, I thought, and then I quickly got married, quickly had my first baby. I'm expecting with my second, and I'm thinking, why am I still working so much? I waited for these babies, I prayed for these babies, and I am still sometimes missing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I took the plunge and started my own business, my own law firm, when my children were just at my
Oh my
feet. And I
gosh.
have to tell you a funny story. So I'm
Yes,
doing this,
yes,
Amy, from my
yes.
dining room table. I have one rickety old fax machine. And somebody would call up, and I'm ever so professionally saying, hello, Ireland Walsh Law, and they'll start telling me about the file, and they'll be telling me the address and giving me the kind of information that we would need now to identify the file. I had that one real estate deal. I knew exactly what they were calling about. So, and then there would be just some little guy, crawling on my shoulder, or
Oh my
somebody's
gosh.
crying, and there was no mute button then. So I started that practice from my dining room table, and I did the two things I knew: estate planning and real estate. Real estate at that time, 2001, was booming. By
Oh, it was
2004,
insane.
I had my own practice
Yeah.
over at 107th and Richland, close by here in Worth. And then what happened? 7 and 8 happened.
Right.
The world fell out of real estate, so I had my estate planning, and thank God I did, because that saved me. And
Yes.
not only did it not fall away, it became really much more popular, because just like the pandemic now, there's nothing like the economic world turning upside down for people to think, I need to protect my assets.
Yes.
What if something happens? What we have, we need to get into a trust. So the estate planning took off, and I have never looked back. I still do a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
It's deeply related to estate
sure.
planning. Almost
100%.
everybody has properties,
Yes.
businesses, business properties, vacation properties, income properties, because I do deal with a lot of high net worth clients. So all the pieces. Have you ever looked back at your life and think, everything
did
was
it-
directed research now?
Yes.
Everything
It's
that I did
insane.
that seemed disparate all comes together
Yep.
for what you're doing right
It
now.
really does.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
So I focus on my estate planning and real estate. And then there are some areas of practice that are deeply connected, such as probate for those who
Yep.
really, for some reason, don't get it right.
Right.
Trust administration for administering the trust after our trust clients do pass away, or if they become ill, something like that. Then guardianship for those who have not done their powers of attorney, or maybe it's a disabled child turning 18, or someone gone into dementia, and just there are steps we can take, and I won't get on my soapbox,
No.
but there are steps we can take, that there should never be a need for guardianship through the courts. There should never be a need for probate. But many people will either put it off, or there's an emergency. They think they have time.
Right.
And then, of course, I do those areas of practice also. But those areas of practice give me lots of fodder
Yes.
to tell my clients who have the time, get this done now,
Yeah.
so I don't have to be going to court for you.
This is a definite, if you have not heard her talk before,
Yes.
listen about what she's talking about, because she knows what she's talking about.
And very
There's-
passionate about
Yes,
it.
oh yes,
You know,
it's,
I mean,
yes.
it's definitely, it's easy to do. It's not going to work when you're so passionate about it, and you can hear the enjoyment and the excitement in your in your voice, because what you're sharing and what you're telling is a story, and you're feeling good about what you're doing
Absolutely.
day to day for your clients, for the consumer. It's incredible.
And it's never too early, right? It's never too early.
Never
to,
too early.
Yeah.
And exactly
Yeah.
like you, Drew.
Sorry.
Again, that's why I know so much now about title insurance that I wouldn't have known before, because other title companies don't have the passion for title and property the way you do. And that's why I learned about it from you, and now I realize what a vital piece it is. And I think what you're doing with Title Talk is amazing. I don't think any other title companies are doing this.
No.
You're reaching out. It was so back of the room before, back of the house, whereas you're bringing it front of house, making it exciting, even a little bit sexy.
A little bit.
I mean, the reality of why that's, Amy and I had numerous conversations about this in, a few years back, and trying to, like you said, bring it forward, trying to bring it into the light, going, I know people don't like this or know about it or understand it. Let's give them a little bit. Let's just give them a little piece of what this is about. So if you guys have a question, this is a great time to ask,
Yes,
any
yes.
kind of a question for Eileen, because she's here. She can happily answer your questions. If there's anybody out there that has any, concerns and wants and wonderment about, an estate, a will, probate, all of the terms that she used there, if there's something.
There was a
you
lot of
don't
big
understand.
words.
Yeah, definitely those are terms of the industry.
Industry
Yes,
terms,
very
yes.
industry terms. And I know that you've answered this question already, but why did you pick this type of work in this position? I mean, you've kind of gone through that with your passion about feeling good and the healing piece of it. But is there any, through the process of this growth and these, there's so many practices of law. At what point in your kind of path do you really find a direction to say, this is the path? Because there are so many options. I mean, You can go into criminal law. You can go into. I mean, there's so many options.
Yeah, I think it's a convergence in life, and I know you'll have found this too, but at some point the practice picks you. And we try in law, oh my gosh, I always encourage, and we already have 2 of our junior team members already applying for law school.
Holy
So
cow.
maybe I'm a little too successful.
That's
And yes, we have our Jamila and our Jacqueline already in the steps towards going to law school, and I wouldn't be one bit surprised if Hagar went in that direction too. So I'm always saying that there is so many options with law. I mean, it's a brilliant study, it's a detailed study, need to have an eye for detail, you have to not be intimidated by a lot of reading and deep reading, close reading, the muscle for reading, and it's not that hard, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
That's the secret, it's just a lot of work, not terrifically hard work, a few mental gymnastics here and there, but for the most part, you've proven that you're prepared to do hard work if you have a law degree. The options are myriad. There's diplomacy, a lot of, and I think it's all that reading and writing, but a lot of lawyers become authors.
They do.
You can go in the corporate section, you have your own business. There is just, you can teach, so it opens up so many doors. The teaching, I have also access, I
Yes.
taught here when my boys were little at Moraine Valley, I taught law for 10 years, and that was a wonderful experience for getting my public speaking feet and becoming comfortable in front of an audience and being prepared for anything.
Yes.
Because if you're teaching a bunch of 20-somethings, they're going to ask you anything.
Yes.
So, and I would say, so about estate planning, I didn't seek it out. It was there in John Griffin's office,
Yes.
a wonderful mentor for me who is now a judge. It was there, I learned it, and then of the different areas of practice, that's the one that I had going really strong
Okay.
when everything else was falling away, real estate was turning upside down. And now I would love to see, I went from law school and picked it because it is such a beautiful area of practice. But I do think most of us, not only do we find a niche, but we find what we're best suited for. And then you don't go wide anymore, you go deep.
Yep.
Because that's where all the knowledge and experience and
Well said.
that's where the expertise comes from.
Yes.
You just stay away from all
That's-
those other areas and just become an expert at what you do. And that's where success in business lies also.
Absolutely.
That's so well said, because that's literally the root of what I chose and did with this, is going, okay, it's title, it's not sexy, people don't know anything about it, so I took and
Don't like
morphed it
when you say
into
that.
something that I knew I enjoyed and I had a passion for, and then intertwining it with some of these other things, like the construction and the development, and doing these new things that we're doing here, becoming, more contemporary, more marketable, more in the now, and being trying to be a younger organization, because I think if you look at a title company everywhere, they're all the older folks and you kind of just sit back and go, all right, I'm not there yet, but I'm trying to bring in these younger kids to go, this is how I want to kind of build up in the industry.
Absolutely. And I will tell you too, Drew, we have in my team of 10, just like you, we built tremendously in the last couple of years. And of my team of 10, we have 6 decades. So we have 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. That's maybe 5. I might need a wee math lesson.
Ireland math.
We have the experience in addition to the youth. And I love the youth. I love your Amy and Brittany teaching us about TikTok and about the media platforms and the various ways that we can get out there, so we can take, hopefully, Drew, we can take the wisdom and knowledge and we can teach and mentor those who are working for us, and they can introduce us to their world, their platforms, so that we're not stuck back
Absolutely.
in the greatest generation or the baby booming world. But we need it all. We need it all.
Right.
Yes,
This is full
100%.
circle. Go ahead, Amy.
We have a question.
We have a question. All right, awesome. Let's ask the question for her. A viewer is writing to us saying that, as a new parent, should my wife and I set up a will now, or can we wait for a few years?
Oh, new parent?
New parent.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Wonderful question. It feels like a foil that we set it up, but let's jump right in. So, there are 3 big times in life that people do estate planning. And estate plan is not a one and done. It's not a matter I've done it, I can tuck it away. And the first of those 3 big stages is typically a young couple, they've had their first baby, they're responsible, and they're thinking, we're responsible for this baby for the rest of this person's life, or at least until they're 21, 24, and what if we're not there? So the responsible parents are going to go, they're going to get a will, they're probably just starting out maybe with their careers, maybe still paying off school loans, just starting to accumulate value in their home, retirement funds. So they may not yet have a lot of assets, but they can get a plan in place, wills, maybe with children's trusts in there, just in case something should happen to both of them, and supplement that with $1 million estate insurance policy, Drew.
Sure.
Yes.
This young healthy couple can get $1 million or what, and
Yeah.
believe
For
me,
cheap.
for a couple of the children,
Yeah.
to educate them
Yes.
for all those years, and if they want to get a master's for them, they're gonna need it. So, and because they're young and healthy, we always say, if you need a good insurance agent, we'll get one for you. Get that great policy, the money will be there, and they feel terrific with that. And that's a very simple, inexpensive estate plan.
Right.
And at that point, they're typically going to be naming their siblings, maybe their parents, as their agents, their guardians, their executors. Fast forward 25 or 30 years.
Right.
Let's think now the children have grown up, hopefully into nice, healthy couple
Right.
adults too. Their home is maybe paid for or well on its way. They have all the school loans hopefully are long gone, and now they've accumulated money in their own retirement plans.
Right.
So at this point, they're ready for maybe a little bit more of a robust plan. They're already starting to think about their retirement. So that's the point that we typically would go into a revocable living trust. We
Right.
maybe start getting everything in trust, get everything protected. Now we're going to upgrade those children's trusts to protect them now, not from their own immaturity, but maybe things in the world like lawsuits and divorcing spouses and what have you. And then that can get locked in maybe in 50s. And then there's often a third piece, which is we're a little older now. We kind of know who's living close by, who's maybe too
Right.
far away. We might take all those assets that we had and consolidate them into just a couple of maybe trust accounts, and we're already kind of knowing who's going to be there. This is more end of life planning,
Yes.
even if we've got a couple decades to go. So while we should be thinking about estate planning, to answer your question in a very long way, Amy, at any time in our life, single people don't estate plan. They're
Right.
invincible, don't you know?
Right.
Need an estate plan,
Yeah.
but they typically don't start until exactly as your questioner said. We have this little baby,
Yeah.
and now just the awesomeness of that responsibility triggers getting
What do we need
an
to do?
adequate plan in place.
Absolutely.
That's a great question and better answer. I think the answer was better than the question. Because it does, it really speaks to the value and the need for it. And, I know that I'm from a generation with my dad being an attorney too, that, having a will, have a will, make sure you protect yourself, etc. Then you ask him, my dad, if he has a will, and the answer was no, until obviously recently when he, set this all up. So it's kind of oxymoronic, but yet, practice
we
what you
love you.
preach.
We have had a probate Cook County judge pass away without a will.
Like, I
without
don't
a
get
trust.
that.
Someone who sat every single
That is
day
crazy.
sorting out the fights of those
Yes.
who hadn't done their planning. And I think it has to be, it is hard. We do put it off
Sure.
because you do think I'll get to it then.
Sure.
But we don't know what the expiration
What is
date
that?
is.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, we have to face a lot of things we might not want to think about. Some people don't want to have the difficult conversations with their family. They don't want to think about whether they would want end of life extraordinary measures or not.
Yes.
But putting it off is never the right
No.
answer.
No.
Not at all. Not at all. Amy, go ahead and ask your next one there.
So so you pretty much just answered this. So for people that don't have wills, don't do all of this, what happens? Like what is the worst case scenario, I guess?
Consequence.
So anything, if we die with something in our name only, and that is there's no joint tenant, there's no trust, and there's no beneficiary, that asset becomes our estate. The estate sounds fancy. It just means that is now, before we ever get to whomever your heirs are under the law, it has to go through probate.
That's a
Go-
long, scary process, guys.
Long,
Inexpensive.
scary process, expensive, and here's just like probably the most difficult piece.
Yeah.
We have to publish in the law bulletin a claims notice, which is pretty much saying, come on in, the water's lovely, this
Mhm.
person has died,
Yeah.
there's a big enough asset for us to be going through probate, because smaller assets, we have small estate affidavits, but
Mhm.
something's worth more than 100,000.
Right.
And then those claimants can come forward. Here's, if you take nothing away, viewers, from this interview, you all want to aim to die without an estate. You don't want an estate of one penny. You could have millions of dollars, and there's not a penny for anyone who might want to claim against your estate.
Mhm.
It will all be protected in trust, maybe beneficiary designation,
Sure.
maybe for some reason a joint tenancy works for you, but you should not have, it's just pure negligence to have an estate. So
Don't do
there.
it. Don't do
Just
it.
don't do it.
And she never, so this is,
Just
she's
don't
serious
do
about
it.
this. Make sure you listen about that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
a
we have
great
another question.
Another
do.
question
Go ahead.
in the comments. Hang on, let me see if I can work technology.
All right, I got it. You
Go-
got it?
go for
ahead. No, you go ahead. You go
All
ahead.
right, when is it appropriate to do a trust? And what are the benefits of a trust?
So,
That was from my Aunt Molly. Hi, Aunt Molly.
yeah, I am Molly. A trust, so a trust is like a little bit of a castle in the sky. To think of a trust either as just another little world that exists alongside your physical world, or think of a trust as just another way to hold title. A trust is its own, and an even better way, maybe think of it an entity. So we all know
Yes, yes.
we could have our own corporation or our own
Right.
LLC, and that's a little aside from us, and it removes liability from
Yes.
us. Well, a trust is very similar. So you could create a trust, Amy. You're the beneficiary of the trust. You're the creator of the trust maker, and you're the trustee. But it's separate from you, and that's exactly how we stay out of probate, because you have. Let's just even take something as simple as the family home. You've created the trust. You've transferred that property from you individually to yourself as beneficiary and trustee of the trust, so you're giving up no right, no
Right.
ownership, except the trust now owns it. Why does it not have to go through probate? Because upon your death, you said your successor trustee is your Mr. Amy.
Right.
So now he becomes the trustee. You've said your beneficiary is Mr. Amy or your little Amy's,
Yeah.
whoever that is. That now it's its own world.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It just
Yes.
passes upon your death automatically to somebody in charge, automatically
Right.
to somebody to get it. We don't need the courts.
Exactly.
We don't need the court's authority.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why a trust is so much better than a will. And that's the simple part. Staying out of probate is just one part of
For
it.
sure.
All the protection. And we can save tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yes.
in income tax, capital gains tax,
Right.
estate tax, federal and state.
Yes.
It gets sophisticated, but for a lot of people, it's just staying out of probate.
Right.
It's
Yes.
protecting their own children from
Mhm.
anything that might be happening in their lives. But as you grow with physician clients and clients like yours who have multiple businesses and lots of property, I mean the possibilities are endless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Truly, there's really no need to pay any tax if you do your planning. And many of my clients, let me be quick to say, are philanthropists. They are very charitable. They're giving. They
Yes.
support causes. They create charities. They want to decide how to spend their hundreds of thousands. They don't want the state or the federal government deciding it. So it's perfectly legitimate, and it does not make them bad people. It just means that they made that money and they want to control the
Sure.
use of it.
Right.
No,
Right.
Again, a very great answer to really diving deeper into what a trust is, because a lot of people just hear the word and they kind of assimilate it with it's a piece of protection. I don't really know why, but
Right.
it protects me, and it's true. But you really need to know and understand all that's behind it, and really the benefits, like you were speaking to the financial benefits, are so much greater with the trust than they are with
Yes.
the will. The will puts an exposure out there. The will is more, I would almost say, old-fashioned, because the trusts weren't a common practice when we were younger,
Absolutely.
right? And, mom and dad always talked about a will when we were younger. Now they've developed different opportunities that you need to explore in your estate planning, because you don't always have to just put a will together. Putting a trust together makes some sense
Yes,
for more people.
I was gonna say, because you actually have to go through the steps to put together a trust, you do have to lay out your beneficiaries, you do have to lay out all that information so that, if something were to happen on the title side when a property is held in a trust, we would ask to see those trust documents that lay out everything, who should sell this property, who can't sell this property. And, so I do, sorry to interject.
No, absolutely, that's correct. And it's true what you say, Drew, that trusts were once tools for the rich.
Yeah.
And there are some people who still believe that is
Yeah.
still the case. But there are some really great trust states, and Illinois is one of them. Florida is a great state. New York is a great state for trust. They are still expensive to get on board with. We're so lucky here in Illinois. We have a very favorable trust code, and trusts are not expensive to get on board with.
Yeah.
So they're very widely used. Many of your clients have trusts. We see that
Yes.
with our real estate deals every day. Many of for you younger people, your parents will have trusts, and they're just such a good idea, and not that expensive to get on
No.
board with.
No.
Absolutely.
And there's no gray area when something happens. It's
Yes.
all defined and it's all laid out. And I
Yep.
think that's, planning for, when you're gone and making it as simple as possible is really the process that, that Eileen tries to help with and her team tries to look for that opportunity to save you guys and your families in the whole process. So,
Right.
Could I just make one more comment
can.
about that, Drew? So again, for some people thinking that the trusts are for the rich, sometimes when someone has a modest estate and maybe a small CD in the family home
Yeah.
is all they have, a lot of our clients are outliving their money. Those who retired, they saved to retire in their 60s and now they're in their 90s.
Yeah.
And they really, are getting close to outgrowing the money. So if there is just the home and maybe a small CD, and the possibility of needing a nursing home, you can preserve the home by getting it in a trust. So when there is a modest estate, there's sometimes an even greater need if you want to make sure that you have that inheritance for your
Yeah.
children, which everybody does want to have,
Sure.
by getting a little simple trust in place.
Yeah, no, that's, again, this has got a lot of value. And if you guys are just kind of joining us, we are sitting here talking with Eileen Curlin-Walsh, one of the great attorneys that we work with on the south side and working here directly in our office here on Southwest Highway in Palos Heights. We have a few more questions for her, and if you guys have some questions, if there's something
Yeah,
you
keep
guys
throwing
want
them
to
out.
know, please, this is your time to really ask them out there. So I'm going to ask you one question here, Eileen, and it's a horror story that kind of sticks out in your head through the process of, and it could be anything. It could be a trust horror story. It could be a real estate horror story. It's yours.
Okay, so I'll tell you one situation about 3 years ago that comes to mind.
Okay.
So another attorney, we attorneys, we talked earlier about, going deep when you find your area or it finds you. We often refer something that comes to us that's not our area to somebody else we know they'll be in good hands. So a criminal defense attorney referred to me a family that had an estate planning need, and this gentleman was already ill. He already had the diagnosis. There was a property in a land trust, but it didn't have, and I'm sure you find this all the time with land trusts. You think the property's in a land trust, it's fine, but if it's the old bank land trust, hasn't been updated for many years, some of the beneficiaries will not be succession language, and you can end up in a probate situation
Oh, I think I
Whenever-
remember this.
when everybody hopes
Yup.
that wouldn't have been the
Yep.
case. So they came to me, there was the old bank trust. I said, this particular person has passed away and this bank trust has not been updated. So not only do we need to update the bank trust, then there's another issue. Again, I could talk all day, but when people are receiving state or federal benefits, we really need to be careful with estate planning if we're going to give them a gift. We can preserve the benefits, make sure they don't get interrupted. We can make sure they get their gift, but we have to plan carefully through that. So we had some special needs trust planning that was needed. If they wanted to keep the old bank trust, that was just fine, but we would have needed to get that updated too. So I made the recommendation and I gave that particular client what the costs would be. They left my office and I never seen them again.
Okay.
Because sometimes the costs are off-putting, but this really is and there is an investment with estate
Yeah.
planning, as with everything.
Yes.
But this is a cautionary tale. They didn't do any of the updating that I had requested. So after the gentleman passes away, the family come back in. Well, guess what? None of the problems had gone away. They were now exacerbated. So what we had to do was, even though we had that land trust, the last person to die, we had to probate their estate.
Okay.
Now, my client had gone out and thought that he could take care of it. My prospective client, who passed away, thought, well, I'll just do a will and I'll say this is what I want to happen, because he did want to disinherit a family member. He did a legal Zoom will. Now, legal Zoom is a fine tool if it is, I would almost say you would need an attorney to navigate it with you, but they didn't do it correctly. So we ended up in probate, as I said, Old Bank Trust. The legal Zoom will wasn't adequate because they hadn't had all the witnesses in the same place. There are other problems with legal Zoom, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So this man who had wanted to disinherit certain people, the will got thrown out because there was a contest by those, because when we go through probate, even if you're not including your heirs, we have to send them all legal notices.
Yep.
Again, come
Yep.
on in, the water's lovely.
Yep.
Yep.
So we ended up having to give half the estate. We ended up settling it, and that's where my healing law comes in. No matter what is going on, I try so hard to get everybody out of court, to get them out of litigation. Realize that the mental anguish, as well as the dollars, it's just so much until we make peace and go on, and then everybody can go on with their lives. So we ended up settling. Half the estate went to exactly whom that gentleman who sat in my office that day did not want the estate to go to.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, that's the danger of not doing what you need to do, and then doing maybe inadequate planning, or if you use self-help, not getting it right. So the investment is absolutely, I always say to my prospective clients, this is an investment of your time and it's an investment of your money. It's a stitch in time saving 9, or maybe sometimes 90, and there are rarely, but occasionally, it does make sense for a client who has such modest means, they need every single dollar in that bank, that we don't know what they're going to need, that maybe just leave it till the end and then we'll probate. We'll probate what's left, you take care of your dollars now. That's a very rare instance. For 99% of the time, you put the time and the money into an estate plan now, and it will serve you over and over and over. It'll be worth 100-fold what you put into it.
Such great advice, and really listening to, we all have industry stories that turn out bad, and you can't prevent from all of them, but you try to protect the majority. And I think what you said there is, again, reaffirming what you stated throughout the process of this interview, is the importance of it, and doing the steps and taking the steps necessary to really putting it all in place, documenting it to the way you want it, and otherwise it can turn out to be exactly the opposite. And for the cost versus the result, it's so well worth that money spent. And I can't express enough, if you don't have an attorney that you're working with that is doing this with you or for you, please give Eileen a call and get into her office and sit down. Not only will she make you feel absolutely comfortable, but you will be in a better place when you leave, because you'll feel that relief that she spoke about earlier. And I think it's very important to life is already hard. We got enough things going on. We don't need to add to them by the difficulties and adversities of what happens when. And you can control that. And controlling that now, I think, is good. I did take your question, and I apologize for
You
that.
did take my
But
question.
would you like to take the next one? Or okay.
You're
All
going
right.
great.
You can end up with it.
You're going great.
So we've been hearing and seeing some conversation about a new thing that you're kicking off, and it's a little Share My Legacy, and you're obviously very excited about it, and it's obviously passion to you as well. So why don't you tell us and the audience a little bit more about your new venture?
Share My Legacy. Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Ireland, and I was way in the country, and this sounds like 100 years ago, but it was really only 50. We didn't have electricity. There was 12 of us. We didn't even have running water or plumbing when I was born. My first school was called the Hen House. It literally was a one-room schoolhouse. It was little more than a hut. So that was a world where there were, and lots of neighbors, aunts, uncle. My parents had those big families too. We had a great aunt who lived with us, 15 of us in that small farmhouse. So and there was tremendous respect for seniors and elders. So I grew up in Story. There were stories of ghost stories and banshees and the wars. As you know, Ireland is at war with England for 800 years, and stories about the whiskey stills and the fairy rings in the trees. And these adults were superstitious. I mean, big burly farmers. They wouldn't, and they didn't have much land. If you've seen the size of Ireland and those big families, it was very subdivided. But they would have left a field if a ring of blackthorn trees grew just so, because they would believe that was sacred fairyland. So I grew up with those stories and a respect for listening to those who told them. Then fast forward to my estate planning clients, where I told you that their needs unfold through stories. They tell us about how they built their businesses and about their immigration story or their divorce story or their adoption story. I mean, these are all part of their story that we learned, for them to trust us, for us to work together, for me to know what I know. And I always thought it was a shame that the stories got set aside. We just did these legal documents. Wonderful, yes, going to do their job. But they were cold legal documents. And these beautiful stories were left on the shelf. So I discovered this ancient tradition of an ethical will. It predates the Bible, where the Jewish patriarch would sit with the family and he'd tell them how he had made the money and what they were to do with it, hence the ethical will. Now, through the centuries, it came out of the religious world. You know, we women got our hands on it, and you know, we're the story keepers, and turned it into something so much more warm and wonderful. It still isn't near as popular as I think it should be. So I single-handedly am going to start the movement for everyone to write this legacy letter, a much more normal, a much more modern way to refer to it than ethical will. I think that sounds a little cold, as indeed it was in those days. So I discovered the tradition. I started teaching myself how to write it. I started teaching and encouraging my clients to write it. And when they would write that story, they would love their legacy letter far more than any of the other documents. They'd start writing it for the children, the grandchildren, to pass on their life lessons. They would be the greatest beneficiary. Because who amongst us sits down, takes a few hours to think about our life, its meaning and purpose, what drives us, what lifts us up, what we're proud of, what we've come through, and what we would want our children, grandchildren, friends, neighbors, the world to know. So I saw how popular it was with my clients, and it just, my tagline is warmth and competence. And I probably earned that warmth. The competence we talked about, getting deep, knowledgeable, but the warmth I probably earned, one, loving my clients and listening to their stories, and caring. I love those stories. Christine's knocking on my consultation door all the time. My time is up, because I just love to talk. So we took those stories, we took that legacy letter writing out of my practice, although I still, and the point I was going to make is that I think I earned that warmth from caring about people's stories. And then when I teach them to write them, and they write that, and they see that I thought their story was as important as the documents, that I cared about them beyond the fees. I mean, I do have loyal clients for life. They refer me to their family and their friends. So then I thought, well, we all need to write this legacy letter, whether we're doing estate planning or not. So I developed a little program. It's called Share My Legacy. It's a series of 8 video tutorials walking through the process. It comes with a beautiful workbook, and that I'm so proud of, because we just put the finishing touches to it last year. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just kind of run through it. If you would just indulge me a couple of minutes to explain what a legacy letter would look like. So we start off, so I dedicate it to my lovely wee mother who died last year, where all my stories began. And we start off by kind of talking a little bit about the history of the legacy letter and why it's important and what we hope to gain in there, and how to start the journey with a few great stories, maybe one from your childhood, middle years, later years, just to get the juices flowing, get you used to it. I show you how to dedicate it, how to write your opening lines, set yourself in time and place, not a huge history. Who you are will rise from the document, but just enough to kind of set you in history. And for everything I ask my clients to write, I give them a sample. I give them a little sample of other people who've written this letter and shared it with me over the years and given me permission to share, so that they don't feel unmoored. They know exactly what to do. Then we go through, after we've gone through meaningful life and times, Then we'll talk about the difficult times. Sometimes we learn the most from
Yes.
going through that, that awful loss, the divorce, the thing that happened that at the time we probably couldn't have talked about. And I always say to my audiences, don't attempt something you don't have enough distance from, that you can review it and you can look back on it and you can talk about it. We don't want this. This is meant to be healing.
Yeah.
I call this program Share Your Stories, Heal Your Soul, and Pass On Your Wisdom. So we don't want anyone to be upset. But if you have the distance, leaving that story, maybe it was a teenage pregnancy, that's a secret in the family. And families know about secrets, even if they've never been told. They sense them and there's an unrest with it. So you tell those secrets, how you got through it. And maybe you'll see if some great-grandchild that you have never even met,
Sure.
maybe you'll see their life believing that story. Because see, our children look at us as if we led perfect lives. If only they knew, right?
Oh.
So you pass on the lessons and the difficult times, or as I say, we may have learned the most. Then we go through, this is the heart of the ethical well. What do you believe? What is your life about? What drives you? And what is the story that carry that message? Because just to pick something like education or travel or faith, it sounds empty until you tell the story that carries the
100%.
message. And that's why it's all story based. But out of these stories, your life is emerging and what your life has meant. Then we go on to what you're proud of, your hopes and blessings, how writing the document made you feel. And then I just say, lay out your whole heart at the end. Just tell your family how much you mean, how much you love them. Leave nothing on the table because these words will last for lifetimes.
Yes.
And then I tell you how to wrap it up. I am so proud of this program. I absolutely love my legal practice. I'm really, really proud of the success that I have been able to work towards these 20 years. This program is just the icing on the cake for me. And the fact that I can offer this to my clients and then I can bring this out to the world and show people that their little broken lives matter,
Yes.
matter cosmically, is I just feel kind of maybe my life's purpose. And Drew, I'd love to give my
No.
workbook to you. You were kind enough
Oh.
to give me your beautiful book that you're so proud of,
Thank
which
you.
is your life lessons in there. And this is mine for you, and I'll also share with you the video tutorial that goes
Oh,
with
that's
it.
awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And
Thanks.
I have
Getting
to be
teared up. That was.
I have to be truthful. I was reliving the book writing experience as you're speaking this, going how passionate you were about this, and I was very passionate at that point. I mean, COVID gave me the opportunity, the outlet to go. I'm going to spill this out and share the story and impact some people. I don't care about the book sales. I don't care about the revenues that come from it. I care about the story that's in it. I care about the message that it delivers. And if it impacts one person, I'm good. I'm good. And this is, I mean, this for me, when I did that, just like you doing this, it I think lets you know that you've kind of reached that next level. You've been able to do some things in life to now go and recognize, what else can I do to give back? How can I share and give back to the people who've kind of supported us the whole way up? And this is really great. I thank you so very much for this.
Because shoulders of giants, I just mentioned my mother. Look at your father,
Yes.
Al Wishover, who
Yes.
taught me so much. He was my mentor. I can't even imagine what it was like to have him as a father.
Yes.
All the things that he taught you too, they're in that book.
Yes.
Because you are who you are because he was who he was. And
Absolutely.
it's this beautiful passing along the wisdom through the generations and showing those elders how much they mattered. I love it.
It's great.
I love
It's
it.
great. You can't say thank you enough to those people who've impacted your life, other than doing something like this and giving back to, and continue giving to the generations. And we've had a lot of generational talk here today, and it does make me feel a little bit older, but I'm doing okay. And I thank you for this. This is going to be wonderful. I'm excited about
Everybody do an ethical will. I didn't even know what they were until I heard you talk about it. But
Yeah.
like, I am I'm a history person. I
Oh,
believe
yeah.
in stories getting us where we are and stuff. And hearing you speak about that,
Yeah,
everybody listen to that and everybody do it. That was
it's great.
incredible.
Yeah, this is.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm
Thank you.
looking forward to even putting this into action and doing it
Yeah.
and following it, because I love writing. I love the whole process. So again, getting a hold of Eileen, not just an attorney, it's somebody who is great for you to meet and Plan Your Estate. All her contact information is scrolling above our heads. It is easy to get a hold of her. If you miss it, we're going to rerun this show here again tonight. If you want to give us a shout and give us a call to get a hold of her, we can definitely do that as well. And I really appreciate you coming in here today and sharing this story about the legacy. And Amy, what do you got?
So I think our last question to kind of wrap this up is, why us? Why are we lucky enough to earn your business? Why are we lucky enough to?
You as a title company.
Yeah.
Oh my, I can't believe you just asked that, because I was thinking, before we wrap up, I just want to say how much you mean to me, Inspire Title, and because there are a lot of title companies to pick from. We have built up such a beautiful relationship working together. But I feel now, again, we said earlier, some people say, why title insurance? Why can we do this? Sometimes we'll get a client that says, we want to close this in a couple of weeks. This could be a building that's worth 1.4 million.
Yeah.
It has a history, and the land it's sitting on go back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
They're trusting us that a buyer's attorney and a seller's attorney is just going to move this mountain.
Yes.
How could we have the confidence to do that if we didn't have a title company in between? It gives us the confidence that we can do this. It makes the real estate work. It makes transferring, conveyancing, to use the old-fashioned word, it makes it work. And Drew, I don't think there's been a single thing that we went to you with in how many years? Over 10 that we've been working together, that we haven't been able to work out a solution.
Yeah.
And we've never had a single problem after our closings, because I take my experience as, and now even more than 20 years with real estate, back to John Griffin's office where I first met Al Wishover, and then all the experience that you have here, and we have never not been able to come up with a solution, and it's always good quality ethical solutions for our clients, and you're just rock stars to work with.
Thank you.
And Drew, what you have done, you've taken the title insurance business out of, it really was a little stuffy and sooty and stodgy and kind of old rooms and kind of, it was a very
Thank you for
old,
acknowledging
big
that.
walls and rows of file cabinets, and it was all of
those file
stuffy
cabinets.
and mysterious. And you, as I say, you've taken it out, you've made it modern, you've put a real new spin on it, and you're just people now will understand title in a way that they never did before, because as I said, you completely pulled back the curtain.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That is really, that means a lot, and I appreciate, your time on this show. I appreciate your working with you and trusting in us and friendship and all the things that we do together. We obviously moved in the building together, and we have an opportunity again in a couple more years with another opportunity. What are we going to do? We're going to move somewhere else together.
She's coming with us, wherever, whether here, whether there,
I've
she's
already said
coming
it
with
to the
us.
team. I said, we have to converse with Eileen, because I said it's going to be a joint effort wherever we go, because I think, like you said, the relationship is really great, and the really intermixing of what we do is so important to helping others, and I want to continue that.
And the trust. Ultimately, the trust you have in us to do a brilliant job, and us to trust you and know that we're doing everything that we could possibly do for our clients.
Absolutely. So thank you again for being a part of our show and being here today, taking some time out of your busy
Brittany's mouth
day.
is open.
Brittany's mouth
I
is
have your
open.
staff outside the door.
My staff?
I do.
Your
Oh,
staff.
are they telling me once again that I've talked too long, Brittany?
Holy Moses. What is going on here?
On behalf of Eileen and the Curling Ball team, this is our donation to your food drive.
Oh, no
Holy.
way.
Oh my gosh,
Okay, people keep coming in. Stop. I don't like it. I'm shy.
Everyone, come on in. Go by the couch. Go by Eileen. So you
Get
can.
in there, get in, bother around. These are the fine and fabulous people that we get to walk with. Now you're going to see midsections.
Yeah,
You're going to see a whole bunch of
Everybody move on in.
midsections.
Move on in.
Yeah, we'll spread it around.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people. This is
Now,
so awesome.
I'm really bright right now, but I'm usually very bright. Holy mother of the Lord. This is who we work with. This is the people that we enjoy. You're hearing my voice, but you're not seeing my face because I'm down here now. I'm hiding. Look, I'm going to sit by all this food has been donated to our
We're
food
working with Together We
giveaway.
Cope.
Together
this
We
year.
Cope. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, you guys. This is
amazing.
incredible.
This is amazing. This is why we partner with the Eileen Curlin Walsh Law Team, because they get it. They totally understand, and they believe in what we believe in. We are similar in thinking, and Amy and I have talked about that numerous times on our show about how important it is to line yourself up with people who are of the same thinking that you are, because you know, together you go further. And this is going to be great lunches for me and the team.
Brittany, no, it's not.
This is going right. We are doing our Together We Cope food drive until the end of February, and you guys just made a huge impact, and I can't tell you thank you enough for all that you guys do every day.
You made our goal.
You made our goal. We're now over and above. We've exceeded and excelled in what we're doing. We can't wait to give this to the team at Together We Cope. And Eileen, again, thank you, and ladies, thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so
see
much,
the
guys.
it's an all dominating lady team here. I feel the estrogen in the room and I don't know what to do. I've never felt like this before. I feel like I should run out here screaming. You guys, this has been great. Thank you guys so very much. We're gonna clean up this area and clean up this room and get these folks out of here. But while we're doing that, we got a video clip for you guys to watch of our retreat that we held on Saturday together in my home, doing a little planning and strategic stuff. So while we kibitz with the lovely ladies, you guys get to watch this fantastic video. And thank you guys, and thank Eileen. Eileen, get a hold of her. Her information is scrolling on the screen above us. She is an amazing attorney. Her team is amazing behind them. Look at, they all smile. It's really great. And this is who you'd be working with. They also like to donate to great causes as we do. So here's a video clip, and thank you for joining us. And Eileen, we really appreciate you. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes with just me and Amy. It'll be a lot quieter and there'll be a lot less estrogen. So bye, guys. See you.
Wait, not yet. I'm not crying.
Oh my
I'm trying to learn how to hold it together, but that was seeing. Yes, I'm
Wow.
done. That's why. Yes.
Like, I'm speechless, and I'm just absolutely touched and moved by today.
Yes.
Not only was that just a great interview
She's awesome,
with
man.
a great lady who is doing a lot of great things for her clients and the community, and then just stepping up and doing something generous like that with
Yes.
for our give back.
And to be honest, Brittany and I were on that Share My Legacy page yesterday, just kind of see what it was about and all that. And like, it doesn't speak as loud as she just did. So I would really like to clip that and
Yes.
give it to her, because I just hearing her talk about it is just so much more impactful
It is.
than any internet website could be. So
No, I agree.
if you are a history nut, if you have crazy stories in your family, if you have that one thing that you want to make sure that your great grandchildren know, like, I would suggest reaching out to Eileen to not only get a trust or a will, but to also look at that
Yeah,
ethical will, because that was
I'm
insanely
anxious
awesome.
and excited about kind of going through this and doing
Yeah.
it for my family.
It's
And,
very cool.
she just brings a lot of energy, and again, that's
Oh.
what we look for, and
Yes.
and that's why we work so closely together on a lot of these different real estate transactions. And
Mhm.
when it comes to referring people back and forth, it just works. And you just saw a little snippet of her, and the way she speaks and the way she carries herself, the professionalism that she portrays. It's genuine. It's real. There was no acting. There was
No,
nothing
that
about
is her.
building anybody up. That was legitimately who she is. So talk about
So yeah, those
what we did here.
the lovely ladies next door, they were nice enough to bring that wagon and those bags, and that food is going to Together We Cope. Just a little bit about Together We Cope. I know I talked about it a couple
No, it's
weeks
okay.
ago, but it's a prevention agency based out of Tinley Park, Illinois. It is in my backyard. It provides resources to families in temporary crisis, enabling them to be able to stay in their homes. So if somebody loses a job or something happens where the ends aren't meeting, Together We Cope is an organization that kind of bounces in to not only give food, but they also have a lot of volunteer opportunities. And I think that's the coolest thing that I'm learning about this donation, this charity, this giving back. It's not always how much of a check could you write or how much could you get out of your pocket to give to somebody. It's time, it's energy, it's effort. There's so many ways that you guys could fill your lives out there that is more than just write me a check, show me what's in your pocket. So I would strongly encourage you to volunteer. We did that Feed My Starving Children in January, and I'm hoping we're doing our blood drive in March.
Yep.
And I'm just hoping that we're going to continue. Well, I'm not hoping we're going to continue.
No, we
We are going to be continuing this throughout the rest of 2022. And if the last couple weeks are any indication of what this year has to bring, I am so stoked with what we are going to do as a company.
No doubt. I think we are really lined up with some great opportunities, and it's something that I'm continuing to push and continuing to encourage the team as well as our clients and a lot of the folks that we're starting to work with to be part of this and really join in on these exercises and opportunities. And I think it's really important to note that we're going to be reaching out to you guys as our customers and our clients to kind of partner up with us and let's go share the time and do these things together.
Absolutely.
That example of what just took place here,
My heart is so happy right now.
It is.
Like I feel it in my soul.
it's really, Carol and I had this conversation last night. It's really about, I repeat it so often, but it's about something bigger than us. And the feeling that you get when you step outside of yourself and realize the impact that you're making in a community, I can't explain the feeling. And Amy saying that, her heart feels good, I think that's a really wonderful way to say it, because you just don't realize what impact we're making. And I don't even think we know.
No.
We're gonna bring
No.
this food in at the end
Nope.
of February, right? We're delivering it?
Yeah, end of February.
We're delivering the
22nd.
22nd of February, we're delivering the food to Together We Cope, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to not have emotion
I
through
know.
what this is because of the great.
And it's very cool when it's something that is near and dear to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like something right out of Tinley Park. All the food goes to people in like the Chicagoland and surrounding areas.
Yes.
So you're impacting people directly that you're walking down the street with,
Right,
that
their
you're driving
neighbors.
next to.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe let's.
I think
I don't know if we're gonna be able to top what's happened over the last
I
hour.
think we probably get these folks out of
I
here.
think so.
We thank you guys for listening for
But-
a period of time, but,
Don't forget.
yep.
We had a nice chunk of listeners in today, so thank you guys. So our winner of January, Melissa,
Yes.
she came in here yesterday with her spunky, awesome, beautiful
adorable.
daughter Marley that I could have jumped on a trampoline with
Adorable.
for all day. So she was the winner of our first giveaway. So don't forget, in order to be entered into this giveaway, you have to like, you have to share, you have to comment, and you'll be entered in this lovely little bucket. And we will draw the next winner the
Yeah,
last
February.
Thursday of February.
Absolutely.
Is that what I needed to do, Britt?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We got the plugs in, we got all the plugs in.
Trying to make sure I get all my I's
Yep.
dotted and T's crossed.
Fantastic, and the last plug would be to definitely, share this and get this thing spread around the social networks because of the fact
Ooh, we
of
just got a couple likes and loves
what we're
going
doing, and I really believe in what we're doing. I hope you guys believe in what we're doing. The efforts that we put into this show and this company
on. I want to dance right now.
are
this is
are
bad.
really
Hit the
exciting.
button.
And I think it's something that I'm proud of. And when you see what we saw today, it reminds me of why we do this.
Yes.
And
I'm-
it excites me to continue to do it some more. Right? Absolutely.
This might be the happiest I've been in 2022 thus
Good.
far. I'm
That's-
feeling this is great.
That's really great to hear. And I hope you guys are as happy as we are and experiencing everything that we experienced here today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Please, if you missed it or if you want to talk about it around the water cooler, tell people that it'll be on tonight. Again, we'll rerun this again I definitely encourage you to listen to it, and maybe you missed a couple points. Don't ask any questions live then, because we won't be. But if you do have questions, get a hold of Eileen, call myself or Amy. We're gonna let you guys get out of here.
Yes.
Let's wrap this thing up.
Yes.
We are Inspired Business Group. My name is Drew.
And my name is Amy.
We thank you for joining on another Thursday. We always appreciate our team and our guests. And until next week, everybody, have a great week and do something special today. Make a difference in somebody's life. We just did, and we're excited about it. So have a great day. Have a great week. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
Well, there you have it. That is it for this week's edition of Title Talk. Be sure to head over to our Inspired YouTube page and subscribe and like. And make sure you follow the team on Instagram and Facebook. Join us again next time for more tips and knowledge from the industry pros. Thanks again for listening.